let's try it again. One more again. And while everybody's coming in, those of you, all I can tell you is you see the pen, you see the Pop Jam pen. Those of you that have your pens, hold on to them. Hold on to them because they are going to be. Just hold on to them. when I drop this special, then you'll understand what it is. Pop's Gems pens, another design of Seasons, um, and and he had his pen. He'll be back in here and he'll pin it. All right, there we go. I'm accepting you. See what happened. Uh oh, there we go. Finally, back this up. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes,
I can't
I
let
want to I want to introduce you
you.
to our guest for tonight. Like I said, I've seen her grow up. I've seen her mature into a wonderful young lady, and so she has pursued mental health.
No,
She is a licensed mental health counselor, if I'm saying it correctly.
you are.
And all right, and so just wanted to bring her on, and we wanted to talk about some things because it was on my heart. Where a lot of people, all year long, you're gonna make uh, commitments to do this and do that, and do it the other. I come from an era where your word was your bond. In other words, whatever you said you was gonna do, it held merit, and that gave credit. And so uh, we wanted to bring her on here. We wanted to talk about the effect of what New Year's resolutions has on an individual mentally. And then, of course, we want to talk about a couple other things in this time of year. And you'll find that this time of year, a lot of people get real depressed, and they because of, for one reason or the other. Y'all bear with me. Let me fix this. Okay, for one reason or the other, either they can't provide for their family the way they want to, or they cannot. Get all the GI Joes and all that, or what have you, and so they get depressed and they allow society to drive them into a tailspin. So we wanted to touch on that a little bit, but before I do all that, I'm just gonna give Brooke a minute to introduce herself, let you know what she's doing, where she's at since the last time. This ain't the first time she's been to the
Oh,
show. For those of you
Lord.
that've been following, so ladies and gentlemen, uh, joining me and welcoming Miss Brooke Bishop
Oh, Lord.
to the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for having me, Reverend Pratt.
You're
I do
welcome.
appreciate it. Like he mentioned already, he has seen me like grown up. He has seen me since I was like a little girl all the way up until now. So he pretty much know how my livelihood was. And it's nice to see us, well, me evolve and actually seeing him doing his podcast and actually moving forward with it. So, yeah.
So, what is it? Tell the people what you do, so that for those who are following, they can, when you start speaking to them, they can understand this is what you do. This is your area.
Okay. So, right now, I'm currently a mental health therapist at a program that helps at risk juvenile youth. Before that, I was working at a psychiatric residential treatment center that was for people with just strictly mental health. And then before that, I worked at somewhere with substance abuse with adults. So I didn't dibble and dabble in different dynamics. Um, I've been a counselor for almost 6 years. I've
Wow.
been doing it. And so far I do love it. I feel like I found my niche already. And I'm currently like I think I want to say like 3 or 4 months. I just starting to do my own business, and I'm just now like stepping out of my comfort zone to work towards that goal. And that was my goal for last year, is to even start the business. And then my goal this year is to start seeing clients and actually start like growing my own business. But my goal last year was to just initially try it. So, but that's what I do now. I currently am working with adolescents at this time, but I have been working with adults prior before that.
And that's good. You got when you have somebody in your age bracket, so to speak, it to me it feels more relative. And what I say by that is, as I've been doing the show, I notice that there's a lot of people. I want to say from the demographic of, I want to say 18 and up, that that have been following the show. And as you talk to people, you understand the different walks of life that they come from. And sometimes it's easy for somebody who's made it, per se, to look back and say, "Oh, you can do it. Tighten up, tighten up." But when you got somebody that's kind of in your age bracket, and you see, what they're doing, and you see that it is possible, it just makes it more receivable,
Yeah.
if you will. You're gonna listen to a mechanic about fixing a car before you're gonna listen to a baker about fixing a car, because bakers, they know how to make. But what do what expertise do you have in cars? So when it deals with Brooke, if for those of you that tell them, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of you. What's the name of your profession? If I don't want to say, if your what's the name of your job? What you do? No. Um,
Oh, the name of my business or what
the
my
business that you're doing on your own.
it's called Clear Minds LLC. I do have a page, so if you do want to follow me, well, you should follow me, especially if you want to, advocate and talk about your mental health, or you want to see client. Well, not just if you want to see me, but even if you don't, like, I can still refer you to people that may be in the better fit for you. If you like want to work on someone with eating disorder, if you want to work on someone with just mental health or substance abuse, there are different therapists and counselors that specialize in different parts of mental health. But my Instagram page is clearminds.therapy. That is my Instagram page, and I'll write it in the chat
Yeah,
so
I was
that
gonna
you guys
say pin
can follow
it.
us.
Yeah, pin it so we can see. And it's important because and just popped in my head. And Brooke knows I was a single parent for a long time. And as a single parent, there's a lot of things that you go through mentally, that you could definitely use some help, some guidance on. And the there you go. Thank you, son. Um, Her father and I have a great relationship, and there's a lot of times I'd be able to just pick up the phone, and we would talk for hours on end.
Hmm.
So she's cut from a good cloth, as they say. She's cut from a good breed of cloth, and it kind of fascinated me to see her in in that profession. People, oh, you've known her your life. Let me tell you something. When you get off of that high horse, you know what I'm saying. And not to get too biblical, but it takes the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. Never downplay somebody that's trying to help you. And I've said that before. Everything that a pop says, you may not be able to use, but use what you can, throw away what you don't. And if I don't say something you like, tune in next week. I'll say something else, and maybe you'll pick up on that. Yep. Okay, I see you. And I guess time come forth. Um, for those of you who don't know, I know they call me Pops, but as you see in the chat, they call me Reverend Pratt. So that gives you a little inkling of some of my scriptorial based knowledge and stuff. But at this point, I just want people to get to know themselves, and then they'll get to know their creator, and vice versa. But seeing Brooke grow up, man, and you talking about the fun times and everything, and then to see her evolve into this is definitely. I'm happy. I'm esteemed. I'm very proud, and those who do know Pops know he don't use that word often, because we as people, we as especially African American people, we need to help one another. There's so many pressures in life that are out there, that I feel that if somebody just had somebody to talk to, somebody that can relate, or somebody that can to give advice, on your level, it would definitely help you go along the way.
Yeah.
And I started to pull up statistics, but you'd be amazed. I'm from New York, and the pressures up there are real crazy. But you'd be amazed how many people just give up because they don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do.
Hmm.
And so Again, Brooke, glad to have you. Glad to have you. Now, if those of you that are in the chat, if you have a specific question, uh, let me pin this for seasons. If you don't want to talk about it on the show at clearminds.therapy, that's Brooke's IG. If you want to solicit her, or if you have a question for her, but if you don't, if you're not, if you have a general question and you want to put it in the chat, feel free to put it in the chat, and she'll do her best to answer it. And if not, then we'll get back to you so that you will be well informed. I come from the mindset of if you can strengthen yourself, then
Yeah.
strengthen your brother. And you got to help one another. Don't forget where you came from, because at some point somebody helped you. So that being said, again, welcome to the show. Um, the topic tonight, what I was thinking about is, and I went a little deep with it, but what effect that does it have on the mind when every year, we do the same thing every year? We talk about, I'm gonna do this year. This is my New Year's resolution, and I'm gonna lose 30 pounds by May, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that with a banana split in our hand. So, um, but I started thinking about that, and I was like, subliminally, are we? And I'm asking because this is the thought that came out. Are we setting ourselves up to excuse ourselves when we don't meet the task that we put before us, so the goal that we put before us? I don't want to say
Mhm.
task, but say goal. The goal that we put before us. Every year we say the same thing. Oh, this year's going to be different. This is my year, 25. I'm coming alive. And then by the third week in January, all that's out the window,
Yeah.
and you settle back into your old ways. But yeah, how damaging is that mentally? How does that play on somebody's mind? Does that say you don't have to meet the goals that you set? Does that say that you're comfortable where you are? You talk a good game. So I wanted to bring in a specialist, somebody that can expound on it and talk about that. So Brooke, if you don't mind, give us a little insight on the mind effect that it has when we commit ourselves to doing something, and then we just keep falling short.
Thank you, Rand Pratt. I think that was a good question. I want to say honestly, when we set those goals, like for me, I can only speak from experience for me. So when I set goals that are not realistic, it does stresses me out. It does give me anxiety. It does put pressure on me because now, as the time go by, as the months go by, as the year is going by, and I look back at the things I said I wanted to do that I'm not doing, it like puts pressure on me. It makes me feel a little bit down on myself. But you also got to remember to give yourself grace because life does happen. Things does play, plays a part in life. Things does not always work as planned. But I mean, I know we have like these vision boards and we have like setting goals and we probably have resolutions, New Year resolutions. But for me personally, it does put stress and a lot of anxiety if you're not meeting up those goals. So the best way to handle that for me personally is self care, and I also do like one step at a time because we all human. Things do happen, but I think we're our biggest critics. So we're going to be harder on ourselves than someone else is going to be hard on us. So that part is like a self thing that we all have to work on. That's something that everyone has like, everyone's putting their pressure on themselves. Everyone's always like, well, I haven't done this, or this is my goal, I haven't reached this goal, or this is something that I've been trying to work on for years, and I every year when a year comes up, I'm not reaching those goals. So it does leave a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. Some people it can lead to depression. It just depends on the person. But for me, I would say stress and anxiety, but also because I'm a counselor and because I had to like talk myself through it too as well and like talk to someone like to bring me out of that rabbit hole because I mean I'm human too. I still have negative thoughts. I still have like that stress and anxiety. But to help me get out of it, I have to like give myself grace, or I need to talk to someone that's gonna be like positive or somewhere that's gonna reinforce something to help me like be realistic. Because sometimes we're not realistic with our goals either. Sometimes we put too much on our plates and we're not being realistic.
Okay, and what would, because you mentioned about uh, talking to somebody, how important, and let me say it that way, how important is your circle for an individual what kind of role does your circle play, and what kind of people do you want to surround yourself with? That because you don't want a yes man. A yes man to everything you do. You gonna do that? Yeah. You gonna do that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're yeah, they'll agree with it. Let's go to the moon. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
They're not realistic. And sometimes we can't handle the blunt truth. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that, there's some people that, that's just their makeup. They don't sugarcoat nothing. They tell you, exactly what it is, and that's it. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's
Ugh.
you know who that's my mom. She does not sugarcoat anything. She's so upfront and straightforward. She say what she mean when she say. She always say that to us. But that's literally my mom. Like I as I grew up, because I guess you already know like the environment that I lived in and what my parents used to do as for a living. So for me, I had to be careful who I surrounded myself with and who was going to be like my friends, who are people are genuine. And I mean, as you get older, you'll learn like who are the ones, like who's your real friends, who's the ones that's genuine, who's the people that you can trust. Because I think we use friends loosely, and not everyone is your friend. Everyone you can't vent and talk to about certain things you're going through. And not everyone you can tell that your goals to. Not everyone wants to see you thrive and reach your goals. And like you have these resolution goals. Some people may be a distraction. So when you do want to talk to someone, if you don't want to talk to someone professionally, you need to talk to someone that you feel like you trust, someone that you knew for quite some time, or someone that you feel comfortable and safe with, especially when you want to be emotional or vulnerable with. You really need to feel like that like safety, that comfort to be able to talk to someone about those things. For me, it took me time to find that only because like my what I grew up in, so I had to be very wise and like who am I going to trust with these emotions, and who am I going to trust about my goals? How do I know you're the right person that I need to tell? Because not everyone wants the best for you. So I think it depends on you as a person. Like you know which friends you're around. You know the people that are good for you. And I mean, I always say trust your gut feeling. Like I have this like intuition, but I know in the Bible it's like biblical. We say what is it,
Discernment.
discernment spirit?
Hmm.
Yes, I have that. I have that with people, with certain people. Like if I know someone's not good for me, or if I know someone doesn't have good energy or good like intentions for me, like it'll be like in the pit of my stomach, and it's like I won't ignore it because down the line I'll see that this person was not like that person wasn't
Yeah.
for me. Like I should be talking to them or telling them like my personal goals or the things I'm going through or someone I want positive advice from or like just good feedback from. So like trust your gut, trust that intuition because my discernment spirit never leaves me wrong. Like it literally hits like right on the head.
Wow.
And literally, I told a friend that I'm like, no, I really have that. Like, it's at the job, it could be at the store, it could be anywhere. Like that energy, I can just like feel it. I think maybe it's an anointing.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
Yeah. That's what that's what
Oh,
that's what church folk call it. And it's funny you say that because just last Tuesday on the B&B show, they was talking about the Judas. I don't know how they named it, the Judas something. And it's don't find it shocking when people in your circle, like she said, don't always mean good for you. They don't always mean well. You're gonna
no.
have haters. You're gonna have those that sell you out. And the sad part about it is it's the ones that are closest to you. And
Yeah.
I think that what she said on opening up, who you open up to, you have to be careful because not everybody has your best interests at heart. And so now you opened up to an area where you're vulnerable, and relationships deal in this a lot,
Yeah.
but you open up into an area where you're vulnerable, and you're giving yourself to them, and you're opening up to them. You have to be careful that they don't, what they says, they don't turn and rend you underfoot. And what that means is you'll get people that'll seem like they're going along with you, and then at the least minute when you expect it, they'll stab you in the
Yeah.
back. And it hurts. You hit on something very, very profound. People got feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and I say this all the time. I use it as an analogy. When you invite somebody over, you meet somebody, you don't just straight invite them to your house.
Right.
Number one. Number two, when they do come over, they're gonna sit in the living room. They're not gonna go to the bedroom and to the back room. They go. So it should be the same way when you're dealing with people in your life. And I think that we get starved for company to the extent that sometimes we overtalk ourselves, but that comes uh, from it comes to me, and I could be wrong, and I'm kind of putting this out there for you to comment on. What would you define somebody that is so starved for company and attention that they will just release information to anybody looking for some kind of feedback? How dangerous is that?
That's a loaded question, Reverend Pratt.
I know. Welcome to Pop's Gems.
That's a loaded question. That is a really loaded question. So, oh Lord, that's yeah. Hold on, let me process that.
Well,
As
yeah,
you're answering me, as you asked me that, I was like, dang, that's
it,
dang.
it, it you know, I'll talk about me, like you say. My whole life growing up, I never had a lot of friends, but I was friendly, and I used to hang around with a lot of people. I was a support man type scenario.
Mhm.
But when it came to me to have somebody to vent to, somebody to talk to, somebody that I could share my feelings with, it was far and in between. And I had the experience. I opened up to somebody, and we was tight.
Yeah.
I mean, Ace Boon Cool, and they stabbed me in the back, and that really, really, really hurt. And so I shut down, and I said to myself, no. But let me tell you this from my experience: no man is an island. Everybody needs to be somebody to have a form of accountability
Mm.
to, somebody that you'll feel comfortable with, that won't take your precious gems and to the flea market and just sell them for whatever they can get. Won't throw you under
A
the
word.
bus.
I can't think of it, but it's a word for it when someone like you tell someone something like very like personal, or you tell someone something like very personal to like a person, and then they end up like either they end up spreading your business or they end up like throwing it back in your face. It's a word for it, and I can't think of it because I'm going blind. But it's like,
That's all right. It'll come.
oh my gosh, it's a word for it. Oh my gosh, I can't think of it. But it's a word for when someone is like you're like being vulnerable, you're being emotional, you're telling them whatever the case may be. You could be going through whatever. It could be about your goals. It could be about family problems. It could be whatever the case may be. And then it lacks the trust. Like it hinders you from trusting people. So now that you've been through that experience, it's gonna be hard for you to trust another person or trust telling someone this information that you already told someone because they're going to either they throw it in your face or they're spreading it. And that does affect trust issues in relationships, trust issues in friendships, trust issues in like anything. It trickles down because now you've been through something and now you have to learn from that experience. Some people go through a lot of trauma and they they don't overcome it until later on in life. Like when we're young and we're like because I'm like well I'm 30 now, but when you're younger, you as you look back at your childhood, you realize all the things that you have been through, all the things that you have seen. And then now as adult, you reflect on the things like this is what happened to me and this is why I am now, or this is what I've been exposed to or experiences. So now it's like I move this way or I do things this way because of your past experience. So if like from like me, like my childhood, what I've been like, I ain't been through nothing, but I've
No,
been
I
through a lot
understand.
as far as like I've been around a lot of people that was not always seeking the best for me and my family.
Right.
So we had to be very careful who we trust, who do we let in, who do we talk to. But it also made me stronger today. Like it makes me like very like someone could say something to me and I'll say what I need to say and then go about my business
Hmm.
versus someone who probably ain't never been through like that dynamic that I've been through. They may not be able to handle that. But yeah, I think it lacks like trust.
What would be the first place if you got somebody, you got an individual that wants to get it together? What would be the first thing that you would recommend for somebody that really wants to get their put their head get their head on right? What would be one of the first places, or what are some of the steps that somebody can take to really lay a good foundation on bettering themselves, not only in your lifestyle, but mentally? Um, Again, for a long time, all kind of thoughts. I mean, it was hard for me to trust
Yeah.
anybody after that incident. And so, when I met somebody, I was always thinking, instead of thinking, oh, they cool, and I'm always looking at, okay, Now I got my eye out, and I'm like, what they saying? What they talking about? What they gonna do? When is it gonna happen? And it wasn't comfortable because you can't enjoy your life. So when it comes to dealing with just having a healthy mind, what are
Yeah.
some of the steps that you would recommend people to take?
To have a healthy
Yeah, to
mind, right?
have like a
Okay.
healthy mindset, and go through life is not all hemmed up about. Some people are over worried; they worry about everything, and some people are super carefree; they don't care about nothing.
Right.
But to find that medium.
That balance, right? Honestly, this answer is like, it sounds so simple, but it's the most realistic answer like that I can ever give someone, because this is what I do personally. This is just me being a me taking on other people's mental, emotional, like taking on what they have and bring it home to me. It's honestly self-care. Honestly, that's like the biggest thing they teach us, like in going through training, going through school, going through like orientation, everything, like being as a therapist. Like self-care is like they drill that in your head because they talk about burnouts, and everyone has a burnout point. Everyone has a point where they be like exhausted, tired, don't have no energy, very fatigued, and then it does affect your mental health. Then you start having negative thoughts. Then you start being stressed. Then you feel hopelessness, and then just trickle down from there. But honestly, the simplest, it sounds simple, but it's really self care. To have that work life balance is very important. Like for me, I'm not doing it now, I'm gonna be honest, but the gym was like my best like self-care like balance, like that helped me out. And for some other people, the gym might not be that for you, but self-care, that can look like for anybody.
Right.
It could be taking a bath, it could be exercising, it could be going to a park once a week, it could be going to get your hair done. It has to be something that makes you feel good, something that takes your mind off of stress, take your mind off of work, take your mind off of bills. You need to be able to have something that distracts you in a healthy way, not smoking and drinking. That ain't the healthy way, because you're not, in the moment it feel good, but it's not realistic. You need to be sober when you're doing like this, when you're doing a self-care. Like you need to do something that really, like, what brings you joy, what brings you happy when you're doing that. So that work-life balance is really important. So self-care, you really need to like advocate self-care for yourself, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to, like, you don't have to have money to do self-care, but if you have money to do self-care, take yourself out to eat, take yourself to the movies, go hang out with some friends, go play game night. Those little things are good distractions, and they're healthy distractions to have that work-life balance. But if you are going through something and you don't want to talk to someone, you need to do some self-care for yourself. You really need to take some time and treat yourself. Take yourself out on a date. And now I'm not saying with people, but with yourself. I mean, you can do it with people if you choose to, but really treat yourself like if you was on a date. How would you want to be treated, right? So for me, I say self-care. Like honestly, self-care is the best work life balance. Another thing is, like for some people, like they like to travel, some people like to like host events. So if you're a social butterfly, you may want to try out restaurants. If you're a foodie, have that one friend, that one person that you want to go and explore different restaurants. So it's just little things. It's really the smallest little things that bring self-care balance, because you need to take your mind off of whatever's like stressing you out, whatever's overwhelming. I mean, bills are going to be there when you get back, but maybe you need some space and some time to actually like take a moment to like breathe and like not think about that in a moment. And I mean, I was just stressed out of my job literally a couple weeks ago. I was so stressed, Rand Pratt, it didn't make no sense. And I mean, I would vent to my coworker literally every day. It was like a whole week straight. I was venting to her every day, telling her like, I don't want to be here no more. But honestly, it was just, I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. I didn't have no time to do no self care. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't cooking dinner. I couldn't do nothing for myself because I was so overwhelmed and stressed at the job. So honestly, like I'm just not getting back into the routine of me feeling a little bit better. Now I would like to start my routine with the things I normally do, but yeah, it's literally just it's self-care. It sounds simple, but it really helps. Like it really does help. And they talk about it in school, like having self-care for yourself is really like the best work-life balance. And if you don't feel like self-care is not working for you, then you need to probably go seek for a professional um counselor or therapist, and they have so many, like it's trending so many now, like therapy, like you see it on shows now, you see it like advertising on social media. So it's like therapy is starting to be trendy, just like BBLs are trendy. Therapy is starting to be trendy.
Top of the head, top of the top of
ah,
the body, top of the body.
ah. Okay, followers, don't be mad at me, but I'm just saying, like, it's becoming trendy though. It is. It really is. It really is. Like, it's really not an excuse now. Like, it's even on television shows, and like it's literally like trending everywhere on social media. Like, it's trending so much to the point where it's like, you know, that you can seek out for a therapist if you want to therapist. They have people that's out of pocket, and they have insurance. They have so many different like networks and resources that are like taking clients. It's still like it's growing. It still has some more work to do in the mental health field, but it's a lot better. The stigma was like 10 times worse. It still is bad, but not as bad as it was. You know, I want to say COVID is when it starts to trend more after COVID. But before then, it was a real hard stigma, especially in the African American community. We don't believe in speaking to, a therapist. We believe in talking to God, and hey,
Yeah,
God, that's it. But I'm starting to see a little bit more African Americans starting to reach out, just a little bit more. It is growing. Um, but I do want to say, like, the biggest like thing to like balance off, to have healthy balance, and like working, paying your bills and working and doing all the things that you normally do, take care of your kids, whatever that looks like for you. You really have to take self-care, especially if you're a parent. You still have to do self-care. You still have to put yourself first, because you cannot take care of a human being or your child if you can't take care of yourself. And I always tell people this, like, if you're getting on the airplane, what does the airplane tell you when you have to like pull down the mask? They tell you to pull the mask over you first before you assist with someone else, because how you gonna help someone else if you haven't taken care of yourself first? So even like that's even
message.
telling you an example. Yeah. Like, you get on the plane, they're gonna tell you, hey, if it's an emergency, you have to put the mask over you before you put the mask over someone else. So do the same thing with your self care and with yourself. Even if you're married, if you're dating, if you have kids, you have to take care of yourself first. And it does sound easy said and done. Believe me, I'm a counselor, I'm a therapist. Like, it sounds good to do it, but I struggle with it too. I literally struggle with it too. But like, I have to like adjust and get back on my routine. I just told you I was like stressed out and 2 weeks ago, and I'm just not feeling back like okay. But don't beat yourself up about it if you're like, if you're feeling that way. We're human. Like, we are gonna have those type of feelings. I know I have, and I'm a counselor, and they think all licensed therapists have all the answers when we really don't. And if someone do say they got all the answers,
They
well,
lying.
good, I was gonna say good
I
luck to them.
call them out. They lying. You're lying. Stop that lying.
I was gonna say
Ray
good
billion
luck
in
to
the
them. If
Ray
you have it
billion
all
in the
together,
mid.
good luck for you. But as a licensed professional counselor, like, we still have things that we have to like practice the skills that we're taught, and it is challenging, but we have to do it too. But if there's someone out there that's just doing it, then power to your sister or
Yeah,
brother.
oh brother, you hit the nail on the head. I was gonna say, if you can't spend time with yourself and be
Mm,
happy, you're not gonna be happy spending time with other people. And if you do, when you're not around those other people, there's gonna be a void.
yeah,
There's gonna be a void, and you're gonna, that's gonna it's gonna be hard to fill. But you brought a lot of good points. It doesn't matter what you're doing; you have to make time for you
yeah,
and what you like to do. This way, I was talking before on one of the other shows. I said, how can you tell somebody else how to love you if you don't know how to love yourself? And when you
mm-hmm.
deal with that, talking about going out to the movies and doing all those things. It,
Yeah, but then some people never experience love like
that's
from
true.
home. So how would they know what love's supposed to be like if they never got that from home?
Yeah. So what would you recommend to somebody that is just coming into their own, and they're branching out and they never got the support. They never it was just by and by and making it through, but never got the support that that somebody else may have gotten.
Yeah,
And so again, you said it, you hit it, self-care, start experiencing how to deal. So balance, uh, balance. If you take time to uh, make time for somebody else, I feel that you should take time to make time for yourself. You know what I mean? And I'm glad you said all that because I was thinking the same thing. Too many times we get so busy, then when it comes to dealing with us,
Yeah,
you know,
we put our stuff on the back burner all the time.
and we burn out. That's what you said, and you burn out. Okay, all right. That kind of segues into what else I was saying, and I'm gonna give us a little bit more time because I know we started late. But so now, when you're dealing with these New Year's resolutions, how does that, or what effect would that have when you keep telling yourself you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, and then like I said, 3 weeks later, at the end of January, the beginning of February, you're right back where you came from.
Mhm.
What does that do mentally to you? What signal is that saying to your own self?
So, I mean, everybody's experience is different. Everyone's like handle things differently. So everyone handles disappointment differently. So everyone's put pressure on themselves differently. So I guess it depends on the person, honestly. For me, like I may say, okay, I push something back a week or two, and it may not affect me mentally, but someone who may not have that mindset to maybe not have that self esteem about themselves, or they may not have like I guess they don't have that same like mindset I do, so it may affect them. Like it may affect them as in like, okay, well maybe they feel like a failure, or maybe they feel like it's not worth it. Maybe they have low self esteem. Maybe they have like some like depression, like maybe anxiety. It just trickles down. It just depends on the person. But mentally, it can affect the person if they don't have a positive mindset. And we all have negative thoughts and negative things that goes on. But I think it just depends on the person because I may be okay pushing something back a month or 3 weeks and 2 weeks, but someone else who's like a perfectionist may not. And if you're a perfectionist, then that is going to cause some mental illness. And I think people don't really think that, but I didn't realize and learn about perfectionism until like, I think I was doing like, I think I was like, not my job right now, but it was my job before that. I was running a group and I had a lot of clients that were like perfectionism, like they was like perfectionists, like they really like everything had to be perfect. But guess where that came from? Their childhood. It
No,
it
no wire
started. It
hangers.
literally started from them having to make straight A's, having to make top of the class GPA, having to had the best clean like room had to be straightened up. It literally was like it was like shocking to me because like yeah, my parents was like yeah we want you to have good grades, but I didn't grow up having to be like perfect.
Right.
And if you are like growing up like that, trying to be perfect because your parents are putting these expectations on you that you have to be perfect, like you set these goals, this is what needs to happen, but sometimes they don't happen. And then as you get adults, you don't really know what it looks like when things are not perfect because you've been trained and taught and raised in your household that things need to be perfect. It will, excuse my language, like fuck you up, like mentally, because now that you don't know what disappointment look like, you don't know how to cope with like okay things that are not going as planned. So it will mess you up. Like it will bring down your self-esteem. You'll start thinking like, okay, I'm not worthy, or I'm not able to do this. I suck. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. Why would I even want to try to do this with me? Why would, like you start having all these like negative cognitive distortions like on yourself. So it will start affecting your self-esteem, and then later down the line it goes to depression, and maybe from there it goes to anxiety, having fear to even want to try to reach those goals again because now that you haven't like reached them, and now you're hard on yourself. So mentally I think it does like I think it just plays a part, like it just trickle down. But I lost my train of thought. I had something else to say, but yeah, the kid back, the perfectionism, yeah.
Yeah.
So the client was like raised like that, and like when they had realistic goals on their treatment plans, because as a like in counseling and therapy you have treatment plans and they have goals that they have to reach, so you try to make them like attainable, realistic, in a timely manner, and you try to like break that down. But if they're so like stuck on being perfect with their goals or their new year resolutions, that will affect them, like yeah, that will. But it starts from the childhood. Most people, it starts from childhood, trying to reach your goals and you haven't reached them. But now that if you was like me that didn't go through like oh you had to be perfect, it just depends on like are you a perfectionism on your own? Like who are you trying to prove yourself to?
Right.
Like You wasn't raised in this childhood in your child home to be perfect. And I guess now that you're older and no one told you you had to be perfect, but you're being hard on yourself, then maybe that's something that you need to process and work out. Why are you hard on yourself? Why are you having these thoughts to be perfect? I mean, yeah, we all do. I have them too. That's why, like, I don't want no one to think that I don't have them. I have them too, but then you have to self reflect and you have to like think about it for a second. Like, take some time out and actually think about it. But it will affect you mentally. I think it will affect your self esteem and then like lead to depression, like I mentioned before, and anxiety. So I think it will affect you mentally. You just slowly trickle down.
And that effect, um, or being in that state rather, will affect your surroundings. It could bleed over into, I don't know, I don't want to say bleed over into, I guess when when you're hanging around people and you allow things to get to you, how does that how does that deal with people? Is that why you need a strong support group to kind of snap you back and
Yeah.
you know
They have a couple support groups in Orlando. I don't know if a lot of people know about them, but they have a trauma one, for people who experience trauma. They have like it's almost like AA and NA.
right.
The difference is they're just not talking about alcohol or drugs. They have one specific for trauma. They have some for like addiction. They have some for just depression. They have groups for like they have excuse me, they have so many like different support groups. It's just not advocated and not a lot of people know about the resources out there. They do have them. They have some for LGBTQ. Like they have these support groups out there. It's just not advocated. I wish we could advocate and talk about them more because I didn't know a lot about them until like my last job. We was like referring kids and referring adults to certain like support groups. They have some for self esteem too, because a lot of individuals as adults they don't have high self esteem.
Okay. Single parents. I want to touch on this. It just dropped in my mind. What would you or would it be in the best interest of the child for single parents to start conditioning their children early, or what age do you feel would be a good age to start conditioning children to deal with their mental health?
I'm not a parent, so I can't answer that. But I will recommend, like, if their child is going through something mentally, they do need to like don't ignore the warning signs. Like, pay attention to your child and like she's off or he's off. Like if your kid. If no one
Right.
doesn't know your kid, a parent knows their child when they're off and when they're not doing well. So pay attention to their signs. Pay attention to the way they eat. Pay attention if they're sleeping. Pay attention to who are they interacting with. Are they isolating? You just have to pay attention, like how are they in school? Are their grades going bad? You know, are they misbehaving? Like you have to pay attention to the warning signs because those are the signs that shows that the child is actually going through something mentally. Their signs are slightly different from adults,
Right.
but it's still the same it still has some type of connection with adults. Adults may have problems sleeping and eating. They may be oversleeping. They may be eating too much, or they may isolate from their friends or family. They may not hang out with people. They may, you know, um hard concentrating with work. They probably they can't concentrate at work, having difficulties focusing on task and their activity daily and the things they need to do on a daily basis. Like, and for kids, there's this school, there's is behavior in school, there is homework, there is how are they acting around their peers, how are they acting in the house, are they listening to you, are they doing their chores, are they playing, are they interacting, are they doing like the hobbies that they normally do. If they say, oh, they love karate and now all of a sudden they don't like karate and now they want to quit karate. Like, you just have to pay attention to all the signs. Like, I don't have kids, but I just know like you they have their warning signs just like adults have their warning signs. And like I said, parents know their kids. So if you see something off from them, you see something acting different and it's strange, you definitely want to check in with them ahead of time. Don't just assume because they're kids, because kids have feelings too. And usually when kids have feelings and they're not being resolved, they grow up with those unresolved feelings and they take those unresolved feelings into relationships, friendships, and no one talked to them to process them or acknowledge what they're feeling or even felt safe to talk about it. So if you are a parent and you see some odd behaviors and they're mentally not being the same, you know your kid more than anybody else their kid. Like check in with them. And if they don't want to talk, then probably send them to someone like an aunt or an uncle that they feel comfortable. If they don't want to talk to them, that a person that they
Right,
have a
right,
good
right.
relationship with. And if they don't have a good relationship with them, then maybe you need to
Mm,
take it to the next step. But like a professional. But I would say try them, try another family member that they really have a good rapport, a good relationship, a real bond. And if they don't even talk to their favorite aunt or their favorite uncle or their favorite big sister, then you might want to seek out and try to like try another avenue because you want to try every avenue before it, but you do want them to talk to someone at least.
right.
It's better out than in. You know what I mean? But that's just for single parents. Again, I don't have kids, but that's just my professional advice because I have adults that talk about their childhood and literally
Hmm.
had their parents paid attention or listened or helped them, they wouldn't probably be in therapy, is what they say. But
Yeah, right.
it's different for everybody.
It is. It is because not everybody comes from the same walk of life, and even those that
Hmm.
do, not every step is the same. You
Yeah.
know, um, and I'll say this: be careful when people entrust you
Mm.
with their feelings, their problems, their situations, because coming from me, from pops, it takes a lot, you know, to open up to somebody and say, "Yo, I'm struggling with that," or "I'm struggling with this," you know what I'm saying, or
Hmm.
this, that, and other, and you don't want people to make light of you. You don't want people to make fun of you and things of that nature because naturally it's going to push you deeper into a shell.
Yeah.
But and I think we're about ready to wrap it up here in a little bit. But what flipping the coin to the other side. So for those that got a little tighter grasp on their mental health, they're doing well. What could you offer as an individual, as a support system for your friends? What would be some of the different things that you can do when you see a friend going through?
Yeah.
Like you say, just like kids, well, put it on a peer level, and you see your friend just going through. What are some of the things that you can do? Because, like for me, I get defensive when I shut down. I
Yeah.
don't talk to nobody. I don't talk to nobody. Period. But but
Oh Lord. But adults are more it's more challenging because we're grown. We make our own decisions. We do what we want to do. So we're a little bit more stubborn than the kids. Like because we're grown, because we're adults, we don't want to hear from people. We don't have to hear from people because we're grown, right? So for in my opinion, this is just my opinion. Everyone's different, so everyone may have a different perspective, but um usually if I see a friend of I know a friend and they're going through something and I know they don't want to talk about it, I usually let them know like, hey, I know you're going through something, or hey, I know I see something's off with you. Do you want you ask them, do they want to talk about it? And if they don't, that's okay. Like you said, Rampart, you shut down, you don't want to talk. I will follow back up and basically saying I will recommend like usually I tell people like, hey, like, we're in prayer. I know you didn't want to talk to me. I know I see you shutting down. You're not really interested in sharing right now. But when you're ready to talk or when you're ready to open up, you may need a couple of days or a couple of weeks to like want to talk about it. When you're ready, just know I'm here and I'm waiting on you. Like give me or give that person like me. I'm just saying about me, but give that person like a sense like, hey, like I respect your space and maybe you need time to yourself before you're ready to talk about whatever you're going through. But I just want to let you know I do notice that there's something off, or I do notice there is something different about you. And me as a friend, I want to be there for you, but I also want to respect your space. So when you're ready, just let me know. I'll check in with you a couple days later to see if you're ready. And if you're not, then I probably won't reach out again. I'll give you that space to let you reach out to me. And that's probably like the best thing you can do because then you want to give them time and space. You want to make sure, like, hey, like, I'm here for you. But if you're not ready to talk, that's okay. But when you are, just let me know and I'm here for you. Or if you're even stubborn, like, I know some people are super stubborn where you don't want to reach out at all and they don't want to say nothing at all. If they're a real friend, they'll reach out more than once.
mm,
They'll reach out again, twice, just to see if you really like hey, like this is my second time reaching out. I just want to see if you're okay. You know, I'm not pushing you or rushing you, but this is just me checking on you to see if you're alive and you're well. And usually the person either A, respond and say, hey, I'm good. They're not ready to talk about it. Or B, they'll be like, yeah, like, they'll, begin telling you what's going on, whatnot. So it just depends on the person. But at least you're doing your part by reaching out and giving them space, but letting them know, like, hey, I am here if you're ready to talk. And if they don't want to talk to you, maybe you can refer them to someone that they feel comfortable talking to, like maybe a therapist, or maybe you can refer them to a support group. And maybe they don't want to talk to a close friend.
Right.
Maybe they feel embarrassed. Maybe they feel
Embarrassed.
shame, or maybe they feel like this is too deep for me to talk about someone. Like maybe I need to talk to someone else who doesn't know me, who won't judge me, and maybe I could speak to a therapist. You know what I'm saying? So it
Hmm.
just depends how deep and how like personal it is, um, that they feel like sharing. But as long as you do your part by reaching out and letting them know, like, you notice some odd behavior, and if they need anything, like I'm here. Whether you want to be a listening person, like you want me to hear you, or do you want like feedback? So you always want to ask permission to, like, hey, like, do you want feedback or you just want me to listen? Because not everyone wants to like have like, I may vent to you, but I may not want to hear your opinion. I just want to vent to you and you just listen. Or I may say, hey, I want you to actually like give me your honest feedback and what do you think about this? So you do want to ask them, like, do you want me to listen and not have no feedback, or do you want me to listen and have feedback? Because there's a difference. I just want people
Hmm.
to vent. I don't want no one to say anything. I don't want to hear anything. I just want to vent. So just be mindful. Like, everyone handle things differently. Don't take it personal when someone's going through something. Honestly, everyone handled their emotions differently. So you do your part by reaching out, and if they're ready to talk to you, then they will definitely reach out. And if they don't want to reach out, and they feel like you feel like it's even worse, like their mental health is declining and it's becoming like you can't recognize your friend, then you definitely do your part by saying, hey, like, I'm not sure if something's going on, but if you need me to find somebody you feel comfortable talking to, let me know. And it's either A or B. They either gonna take your resources or take your support and help you, or B, they're gonna talk to you when they're ready. You just have to be either patient. You have to be patient, or you have to like give them that space. But easy said and done, right? Like Reverend
Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah. It's hard when you're trying, because like you said, it's borderline pushy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want people to feel like you're just trying to get in their business. But what a lot of people don't understand when they're in that space is that the other individual just has a genuine concern,
Yeah.
and they may see something that you don't see. That's why, throughout the whole Pops Gem scenario, I always say, listen to what people say. You don't have to care about what they think, but at least listen to what they say,
Yeah.
and run it. Process it through, and filter out truth. And if there's any truth to that, then naturally, it's sometimes the realization of being accountable
Yeah.
hits home, and I know people that will dodge accountability, and do things just because they don't want to stand up and say I messed up, or I'm messing up, or this, that, and the other. And so anybody that tries to correct them, they'll revolt against them, and thinking, oh, you just you try to make you out the enemy, when deep down inside, don't turn people away that care about you. Use discernment, and that's what it is. It is
Yeah.
discernment. you know let them know that you just need, because you could tell somebody, well, listen, I am going through something, I'm not ready to talk about it right now, just continue to pray for me, and I thank you for your concern, because they didn't have to take their time to do that.
Yeah.
And so it's important. Last question, and then we're gonna get out of here. If anybody got questions in the chats, feel free, and now, because I want to do a big push on how to get a hold of you. But the question is simply this: how important is good mental health nowadays, especially in the society that we live in,
How important it is to have good
for
mental
an
health?
individual?
I mean, it's very important, but I think now these days, like now people are really like noticing their mental health. Like they're actually noticing what mental health really is and what it looks like. It's always been important, but um honestly, if you're not mentally stable, then how are you even able to like live life? How are you
Function.
able to function and do your activity daily living if you're not mentally stable, right? And I say this quote all the time, and I was listening to a podcast. I was in my old job and we was doing group. I was running group, and literally this guy was like putting on a podcast. One of my clients was putting on a podcast. And the podcast was like literally about mental health, right? Because we're running groups, so we're listening to like the podcast, and we start the podcast, and we get feedback, right? It was like a processing group,
Hmm.
and literally, the person on the podcast was like, mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And when he said that, that literally was like that kind of like that really like touched my heart because it's not your fault. It's not your fault you have mental health. Like a lot of clients, it's not your fault they have mental illness or mental diagnosis, but it is your responsibility to take care of it. Just like it's our responsibility to pay our bills, and it's our responsibility to put gas in the car, and it's our responsibility to take care of our kids and eat. It's your responsibility to take care of your mental health. So mental health, like, it's been important, it's always been important, but it's been overlooked
Right.
because it's like not it hasn't been important until after COVID, or that's when it started like blowing up more. But it's always been important. It's never not been important. I just think that now America is starting to open their eyes a little bit more. It ain't wide open yet,
Right.
but it's opening up. It's like halfway there, right, in my opinion, based on what I
I
have
agree.
seen. But it's always been
Yeah.
important. It's never not been
Yeah.
important. Just like firefighters have been important, just like teachers been important. Like mental health has always been important. It's just been down and looked down on. But now people are realize, like, if you're not mentally stable, then you can't do anything.
Right.
Like, you will
Right.
decline in taking care of your hygiene. You will decline in taking care of your responsibilities, like family, bills, love. Like, you would decline in like everything if you're not mentally stable, because if you don't have your mind stable, your brain stable, or your mental health stable, everything else falls, like it declines, like it literally declines. I mean, yeah, we talk about the medical part,
Right.
like, oh, your heart, the medical part is important, taking your health like medically, yes. It's just like diabetes, right?
Right.
Someone who's diabetic need insulin.
Mhm.
Like, they can't live without insulin. So for mental health, someone who's diagnosed with bipolar or someone who's diagnosed with schizophrenic, they have to have a therapist, and they have to have medication for it.
Right.
It's important. It's a need. So I feel like it's always been important, but now that people are realizing that how important it is, it's good, but it's never not been important. Like, it can happen to anyone. Right? Like right now, you could be stable, and tomorrow you can wake up with a mental health. I can wake up with something. You never know. You just never know. There's so many stories I could tell you about a kid, a client. This client literally was normal, regular, and randomly had some OCD traits, and that OCD traits picked up into like to the point where he had to come see
Hmm.
a psychiatric treatment, like, because his OCD was so bad. And not the OCD that y'all talking about germs. I'm talking about the OCD where he's doing rituals and doing compulsions and things of that nature. So
Wow.
it's like you can wake up today fine, and then tomorrow and the next couple of days, like, you're not the same person. So it's always been important. Be grateful that you're mentally stable. Be grateful that your mind is not unbalanced. Be grateful that you're not on meds to take something to keep you stable, because there are medications to keep clients stable, keep their mood stable. So
Right.
it's always been important. It's never not been important, but people don't look at it in that way. They just, I look at it like just like someone who needs insulin, like someone needs their medication for their mental health.
Right.
So that's just food for thought, but it's never not been important. Never. We're just not waking up slowly.
Well, I am definitely grateful for you to have graced us with your presence and come on the show.
Hmm.
Definitely, you are. I'm very proud of what you're doing, and it's great to see and know that there's people out there that care. Because I think there's a lot of professions that they're unsung heroes. You know,
Yeah.
they don't get the credit that they deserve. But I want to thank you again for coming on the show. Those of you that have been watching, if you have anything, she is available. Clear Minds is the name of her company, the name of her business, and you can see her there. Also, was that Bray Billion? Is that Braylon? Shout out to Bray Billion. That's another one that when I bring her on the show, that's for all you legalistic people. We're gonna talk about that. But again, Brooke, thank you so much. I hope in for those of you, if you have any questions and you don't know how to get to her, feel free to hit me in the inbox, DM, whatever y'all call it, and we'll connect you. Support her, and it's good to have somebody. So if you don't feel comfortable with one somebody, find somebody else. Because and I wanted to get deeper into it, but because we sometimes set ourselves up and we overwhelm our own selves, and so there's times that we have to sit back and say, you know what, let me slow down a little bit. It's like they say, you're doing too much. You're doing the most. You're doing too much. But again, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the last time, of course. I know we might need to call your secretary and book you next time when you got an opening.
One
Uh,
day, one
one
day,
day,
one day, right? One
one day, I'll
day.
be like, I
Baby
helped her. I was
steps.
a crazy person. I helped her get there.
Yeah,
She got
baby
most of the
steps.
experience from me. But again, thank you so much. If anybody else, like I said, follow. If you missed the show, you tapped in late, and you want to get the whole thing, we're on YouTube at Pops Gems, and then Brooke. Uh,
Nice hat.
you see the pin?
I
All
see,
my
I see.
gemologists, so I got to get you your pin. Okay? Because Pops got his Pops Gems pin. Um, so definitely got to get you one for that for all the gemologists. Got to get Braylon on here. But for those of you that are following, those of you that tuned in, tell a friend, tell another friend. Mental health is important. You take a shower, you wash your you say you brush your teeth, you comb your hair, you exercise, you do all those things. What are you doing to take care of your mentality? Because if my daddy used to say, if you don't know but a little bit, you can't do but a little bit. And so, if you want to expand the horizons of your mind, you have to go get in there and get. What would be? Do you have any literature or anything that somebody could go? Introduction to mental health or something that you want to recommend. I know your book's not ready yet, but
Look
but
at you speaking good
something
positive energy, speaking positive
something.
stuff. Um, I don't have any books. I only have one book, but that's only for trauma because I literally love this book about trauma. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. That's good for trauma. But as far as like a new beginner,
What's it called for
yeah,
trauma?
it's called The Body Keeps the Score. It's really, really good.
The
But I'm
body
trying
keeps
to,
the score.
that's good for trauma. But if, um, hmm, I'll have to if anything, I'll send you some that I could think of. I can't think of them now.
Don't send them.
Um,
Come back on the show and present them to the people. We'll bring you back. We'll bring you back again. It's been a pleasure. And that being said, any last words? Any thoughts? Comments?
um, I want to thank you for having me,
Always.
and I want to thank you for allowing me to share on your platform
Always.
to be able to just talk about what I do for a living and just giving like positive feedback and just giving some, information on mental health and what it looks like. So thank you again for having me. I do appreciate it. And like you said, many more to come.
Many
So
more to come.
thank you.
Not a problem. Again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Brooke Bishop, licensed mental health counselor here, uh, sharing with y'all. Also, remember that if you don't like what we said, come back. We'll say something else. Invest in your mental health. It's important because if you don't keep you together, how you going to, number one, help anybody else, but how you going to make it? Stop going through the motions and
Mhm.
settling for just a humdrum life. The world is an oyster and it's out there for you to take. You just got to get the mental fortitude you can do what you want to do
Yeah.
within reason. Again, this your boy Pops. We out of here. We way out of time. Brooke Bishop in the building. We got some other stuff coming up. Next week is Poetry Monday. So we got a special poet we're going to bring in and talk to them. And so make sure you turn your dials, set them in. Mama Cato, I see you. I don't want to start calling out names. I get in trouble. But I see Bray in the building. There it is, clearminds.therapy. Follow on IG. Follow. Uh, at clearminds.therapy. And and that's Brooke's new page. Awesome logo, the whole nine. But
Thank you.
demographics. But more importantly, uh, thank you for sharing of your time and helping somebody, because there's somebody in the back, and I learned this, and you've heard me say it. You don't know the effect that it has because of how far it'll reach. You don't know. Your daddy used to say all the time, you don't
Hmm.
know how far a person's arm can reach. So you never know, a kind word, a smile, a hug, just showing concern, even for yourself, and love on yourself to the extent that you want to be a better person, and it'll come forward. Again, this your boy Pops. Until next week, we out of here, and that's a wrap.